All right, welcome back everyone to the latest episode of Deep Dive. Good morning, medyo Ben Tulfo style tayo ngayon dito sa night style eyeglasses natin. Pasensya na. Kasama po natin tonight, and of course tonight I'm really great for Justice Carpio. Thank you for joining us. Nagkaroon tayo ng konting miscom, no? Because we're supposed to also have another panel and forum together, God willing, next week. I'll post something about that soon. So I think nagkaroon ng miscommunication. So my apologies. So thank you so much, Justice, for making time for us. I know it's a bit late and I know na kailangan na magpahinga ngayon.
Yeah. No problem, Richard. Thank you for having me.
As always, Justice, your views are highly appreciated here. Hindi naman sa hindi ko na-appreciate yung views na ibang tao. Kagabi kasama pa natin si Father Albert Aliejo at saka
Oh,
sila Ronald. No? So we had views from Vatican and I don't know, Italy in different parts of the world. So maganda yung discussion. But again, a lot of that had to do with Duterte's. Of course, the ICC now just released warrant of arrest for Taliban. So we're discussing about prospects also for Duterte, something we can discuss later on. Tinanong din namin, Justice Carpio, maybe you're also interested. May balita ba kay Harry Roque? Apparently dumaan siya sa Rome. Nakita ni Father. And hindi daw nag-iisa. Okay, so hindi na namin tinanong yung other kasi baka mapahamak yung promotion niya sa Vatican. He lives just a
I have
minute
no
from Vatican.
news. I have no news about him.
Kasi whether Casablanca or Abu Dhabi. Dubai ang huling namin narinig, pero dumaan rin pala sa Rome. Okay, Justice, before we go to everything about, again, a little bit about Duterte and Trump, our usual suspects, let's talk about BBM's budget again because over the past week, essentially, ang pinaka-dominant news is itong alleged, hindi blind items, blank items. Diyan sa Bicam report, blind item. Hindi na siya blind item kasi si Digong openly na-accuse niya ng widespread corruption. What are the facts of the case, Justice? Because all the materials I see are from the Vic Rodriguez types and all, na zero credibility sa akin. From what you know, Justice, ano yung itong Bicam report na sinasabi ng mga DDS nila Digong?
Well, there are two documents here, no? Two different documents. You have the BICAM report and the enrolled bill. Yung BICAM report, that is an internal document of Congress that comes from the bicameral conference composed of delegates from the House and delegates from the Senate. Yung report na yan, they reconcile the differences or whatever changes they want uh, sa General Appropriations Act, and then there is that report, they will sign it, and they sent it back to the House and the Senate for approval, and that becomes the General Appropriations Act. That the 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 final approved bill is sent to the president. The president does not get a copy of the bicameral report. That's internal to the House. So he gets the final bill, they call it the enrolled bill, and that is what he signs. So andito, the blanks appeared in the bicameral conference report. Hindi nakikita ng presidente yan. Well, officially, hindi yan pinapadala sa kanya. So ang pinadala sa kanya yung the approved by both houses, they call it the enrolled bill, yun ang pinadala, yun ang pinirma niya. Yung enrolled bill na pinadala sa kanya, kompleto, walang blanco.
Right.
So kung meron mang problema yung BICAM report because may mga blanks, it's only the fault of of Congress, House and the Senate. Bakit sila pumirma ng report na may mga blank? Pero yung dumating sa presidente na walang blanco. So you cannot blame the president because ang dumating yung enroll bill is the final bill na the president can rely on. And what happened before that, he will not be responsible. That is the enrolled bill, the final bill. At saka yung Supreme Court will not inquire into what happened before that enrolled bill because that's an internal deliberation of the House. Yon.
So,
Parang
right.
within the Supreme Court, yung mga communication from one justice to another, from one division to another, from internal ano yon, communications yon. Uh, so ang tinitingnan lang yung final decision na lumabas, which
Right.
is what
So in
is
short,
the
tama yung sinasabi ni BBM while in Tesla, right? Sabi niya, essentially, sinungaling, sabi niya, liar itong si Digong kasi alam niya pag presidente ka, the version you get, wala nang mga blind items or blank
yeah,
items or anything. That's a final.
yeah.
So in that sense, walang
Well,
sabit si BBM.
walang sabit si BBM, pero tama rin si President Duterte and si Ungab kasi sabi they were referring to the BICAM report na may blanco talaga sa BICAM report, kita naman natin. Pero ang mali nila Duterte at saka ni Ungab, biniblame nila si BBM. He had nothing to do with the BICAM conference report. So they jumped to the conclusion na meron ding blank sa enrolled bill. In fact, sinabi yan ni ano ni I think it was Unga who said, we have to find out what happened in the enrolled bill. Alam din nila na yung BICAM report yun ang may blank. Yung enrolled bill, hindi sila sigurado. Sinabi nila, we will find out if the same blanks appeared. Hindi naman, wala naman ang blank sa enrolled bill.
Okay, so just to be clear about it, so tama si BBM when he say yung final version na dumating sa kanila, the enrolled version is wala talagang mga anything mumbo jumbo in terms of
Yeah,
uh
there is nothing wrong.
okay.
He had a right to rely on that enrolled bill. And he signed it, and he signed it in accordance with the uh, procedure, no? With the accordance with the law. Wala namang kulang doon eh.
But nevertheless, sa tingin nyo, may problema pa rin na bakit dun sa BICAM report, meron parang fill in the blank item.
Yes,
Is that
it is
normal?
now
Mm.
it doesn't seem normal because it's very strange why the members of the Bicameral Commission will sign a report that has blanks. Sinong inauthorize nila to fill the blanks, to fill in the blanks? And who filled in the blanks actually? Ikaw nang mag-fill in yan kasi wala ng oras. So there has to be an explanation of why there were blanks and how were the blanks filled. Where did they get the numbers for the blanks to fill in the blanks? I mean, somebody was authorized to fill in the blanks. Who was this guy? Did he put in the correct figures?
So what are our theories of the case here? Obviously, ang inimply
Well,
ng
legally, we cannot question the GAA kasi kompleto yung enrolled bill pinirmahan. Ang question natin, oy, kayong senators and congressman, bakit kayo pumipirma hindi naman kompleto? I mean, for the
right.
satisfaction of the public lang, you have to explain to us where did you get the numbers to fill in, who was authorized. But it does not affect the legality of the constitutionality of the General Appropriations Act.
Right. So essentially the question is it's not the final sausage but how things went into that final sausage.
Yes,
Yun
so
lang yung angle na attack ng
yeah.
na valid.
Yeah, it could be meron silang listahan o ikaw na mag-fill in ito kasi wala ng oras, pipirma na lang kami. It could be as simple as that, but we really don't know. So they have to explain to us for purposes of transparency, but we cannot question the legality and we cannot blame the president.
Right. So obviously blaming the president, may politicization dyan. May political agenda mga Duterte camp. We know that Vic Rodriguez, of course, the disgruntled, fired former bongo of BBM. Of course, he has every reason to make a mountain out of this. But going back again, Justice, from what you understand, from budget deliberations of BICAM, especially ahead of election season, I don't know if it's Arroyo time, more controversial times, is it a normal practice to leave some, was that part of the negotiation strategy? O sige, itong ano na to, wag muna natin punuin, balikan muna natin sa mga kaibigan natin sa bawat house, negotiate pa natin. Was that kind of Was there like an informal agreement or understanding? What is your theory of the case, if ever? Anong mga teorya natin? Sir Justice, ulitin ko lang, I think may connection problem na ako. What is our theory of the case? Baka si Justice yata yung may problema pala sa connection eh. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify lang. So, ano yung potential theory of the case natin dito eh? Kasi, you know, so it looks like tama si BBM na yung final product, right? Yung final product ay legal because all of the items were filled up, walang room for mumbo jumbo or anything like that. So in that sense, tama si BBM. And obviously my political agenda ang mga kabilang kampo to make to exaggerate this and to make it look as if BBM was signing up to something that would provide excessive room for discretion sa mga kababalakan na pwedeng gawin ahead of elections. But what I want to understand here, of course, is what is the modus operandi when it comes to these kinds of negotiations? Kind of an is it kind of an understanding na you leave some space for negotiation, you leave some empty space para balikan mo yan? Or baka naman, I don't know. Yun nga eh, huli ka balbon, yun yung mga sinasabi ng tao. Justice, no worries. I went Donald Trump just talking like that, yung apparently style, right? Like don't worry. No, I was just saying, so I think we all have an agreement that tama si BBM na wala siyang sabit dahil the final version he got was legit. What I want to understand here is that what is your theory of the case in terms of were there a negotiate was that part of the negotiation and naiwan natin ito is there a precedence for this under previous administrations including the more interesting administrations base sa alam mo kasi Justice you're very well informed about how informally things operate. Naka-mute pa kayo Justice, sorry. Opo.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
What is your theory?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't remember anything like this happening before.
Right, right.
And this is the first time that it has been discussed openly. It might have happened before, but nobody brought it up. But this is the first time. But it will not affect the legality of the passage, no? Because we cannot blame the president because what reached him was the complete bill. But having said that, it doesn't mean that there are no possible constitutional defects
Yeah.
in the provision itself as approved, no, the complete bill, because we do intend to file a case in the Supreme Court questioning certain provisions of the uh, 2025 General Appropriations Act.
Can we talk about that, Justice? Because you still have a petition before the Supreme Court. We're expecting that by next month. Hindi nangyari this month. Gaano kahalaga, again, for people who didn't follow our earlier discussion, gaano kamahalaga itong kaso na ito sa Supreme Court and how important could it be in making sure we have a measure of transparency and accountability pagdating sa budget issue? Because this is now the hottest issue of the year so far. Yung suspicions or allegations of, essentially mumbo jumbos with our national budget.
Well, for this budget of 2025, we will raise several constitutional issues, no? One, the Constitution says the budget, the appropriation for the education should be given the highest allocation, budgetary allocation, and per our computation, it is the Department of Public Works because they from the National Expenditure Program submitted by the President, the budget bill that is submitted to Congress, tinapisan nila yung DepEd of about 12 billion for the computerization, nawala yon. Tapos dinagdagan nila ng over, I think it's almost 300 billion sa public works for flood control, uh, for farm to market road, mga ganyan, no? Yung mga projects where there are a lot of anomalies. So, per our computation, ang pinakamalaking budget pa rin is Department of Public Works and Highways, DPWH pa rin, which violates the Constitution. The Constitution says it must be the education that should be given the highest budgetary allocation. But ang computation naman ng Malacanang, Sabi nila, it is the education that has the highest appropriation because dinagdag nila yung budget ng Philippine Military Academy. Sabi nila, isama daw yan sa
Sa any
education. Yung
academy, anything educational, definitely.
sa budget ng National Defense College, budget ng Public Safety College ng PNP, budget ng DILG Academy. Ang pinakamalaki na sinama nila sa education, yung TESDA. Because the budget of TESDA is almost 20 billion, if I remember correctly, no? 20 billion. Yun na lang, pag yun, sinabi ng Supreme Court, hindi yan isama dapat sa education dahil ang reason, no, I don't think it should be included in education because yung TESDA, if you go to the website of TESDA, ang courses in-offer nila, manicure, pedicure, welding,
Vocational. Eh.
plumbing, electrician's course, beautician, uh, facial, hindi naman education yan. Ang
Yeah,
treatment
vocational.
yan, that's trade trade craft yan, no? That is technical vocational skill yan eh. Hindi naman ladder siya na you have to finish this to go to the next, from elementary to go to secondary, you must finish the elementary. Wala namang degree yan eh. Hindi naman, that's not a degree granting institution. That is really technical. Hindi naman dapat isama yan sa education. Sinama nila yan, eh talagang malaki ang mas malaki ang education if you include yung mga kurso na mga pedicure, manicure. Hindi naman education yan eh.
So academy, pedicure, manicure, lahat vocational, sinama na lahat para lang
Kaya sinama na nila lahat. Oo.
So what you're saying, Justice, is there has to be a Supreme Court
Yes,
clarification na hindi pwede isama yung mga ganito.
yes, and this is an opportunity for the Supreme for everybody to to get a ruling from the Supreme Court. Ano bang meaning ng education for purposes of this highest budgetary priority? Kasama ba diyan yung mga training? All departments have training. Yung Department of Agriculture at dami yung extension work, mga to train farmers. Yung Department of Foreign Affairs, meron silang Foreign Service Institute. Even the Supreme Court, merong Philippine Judicial Academy. So, kasama ba yon? Yung Malacanang hindi sinama yung Philippine Judicial Academy budget sa education, pero sinama yung Philippine Military Academy.
Baka nung
So, ano ang
naabutan yung
difference?
threshold, okay na yan, tama na, okay na. Ano ba balance yan? Baka ganun, parang
Ang sabi nga ni Shelo,
palengke.
nag-word search lao. Linagay search sa word, di ba? You just input academy, input education, sinama lahat yun.
Tapos nung okay na, hindi na kailangan.
Kaya hindi nasama yung Philippine Judicial Academy. Baka aangal lang Supreme Court. Sabi ng Supreme Court, bakit hindi kasama yung...
Actually, hindi kung ako sila, yun ang una ko lagay. Hindi, malaking ito ang pinaka-importante. Palakihan pa natin yung budget ng Judicial Academy. Mukhang medyo may mga last minute na assignment ng ginawa nung iba. Justice, is this the first time we're seeing like this na hindi na minambo-jumbo yung definition ng education just to meet the constitutional threshold, or
Yes, this is the first time kasi ngayon talaga lumobo yung Department of Public Works kasi can you imagine pagdating kay presidente yung enrolled bill for 2025 GA, sabi niya I will trim it down. Ang binito niya sa DPWH, yung mga sarili niyang proposal under the National Expenditure Program. Yun ang binito niya, 26 billion. Pero yung in-insert ng Congress of almost 300 billion, hindi na touch it. So yung pork barrel, hindi niya tinatch. Ang tinatch niya yung kanyang sariling recommendation. Binito niya sarili niyang recommendation. Tapos, hindi niya rin-restore yung DepEd for computerization, napakababa na tayo sa educational survey, no? All over Asia. Nasa lowest rank na tayo. dapat yun ang uh,
Sub-Saharan Africa level.
focus natin to improve our education. At hindi pa binigyan ng ano eh. In this day and age, you need compute to teach our youth computers, no? At saka yung ano rin, ito pang pinaka second issue na i-raise namin is the PhilHealth. Yung PhilHealth zero budget. Hindi binigyan. So, nakalagay sa Constitution, health shall be given priority in budgetary allocation. Priority, hindi naman highest. Basta priority. Pag zero ang binigay mo, malabo yan kasi mas mataas yung iba. Wala ka, you're the nothing ka eh. So, and then, ito pa, yung budget na dapat ibigay sa, no, sa health, about 70 billion of that na hindi talaga nila binigyan, no, zero. 70 billion that mandatory ibigay. Dahil yung Internal Revenue Code, nakalagay dun sa National Internal Revenue Code, uh, about 50% of the sin taxes of on alcohol should go to PhilHealth. Automatic yan, nakalagay, should directly be uh, remitted to PhilHealth. Hindi na dapat dadaan yan sa General Appropriations Act. Pero out of practice, dinadaan nila, binibigay nila yan through the General Appropriations Act. But this year, we need hold nila completely. So in effect, they suspended the National Internal Revenue Code, amended or suspended. Hindi pwede because the General Appropriations Act cannot amend an existing law. It can only appropriate. Yung hindi nila niremit, they they change the law. They are ang ano diyan, it was Congress who to pass a law. Dapat yung PhilHealth will have 50% of the sin taxes. Sila mismo hindi nila sinunod. They did not follow the law that they themselves passed. Yun ang meaning yan. Congress is not following the very law that they passed. Kasi sinabi nila, it should be, the share of PhilHealth should go directly to PhilHealth. Eh,
Grabe, no?
in-impound nila, linagay nila sa Department of Public Works
Ah,
for flood control.
Justice, medyo umakyat yung blood pressure ko yata. Justice, I think I'm gonna officially defect from Team Ronaldo and Trillanes. Sali na ako sa inyo ni Cello para mas galit na ako sa kabila ngayon. Officially, I'm gonna defect from one side of this fence to the other. No, I'm just kidding. Justice Carpio, may mga tanong iba. Si Edan Olon, ang tanong niya, if the signed 2025 budget is proven to be unconstitutional, then what budget then will be implemented? What are the corrective measures that can come in should the Supreme
Well,
Court go your way?
all the Supreme Court can do is declare it unconstitutional. Pwede sabihin ng Supreme Court, okay, yung budget ng DPWH, one approach, no? Yung budget ng DPWH, because it's higher than education, we will cut it so that it will 1 peso lower than education. That will comply. One of the possible decisions, no? Yung sa PhilHealth naman, sasabihin ng Supreme Court, okay, yung sin taxes, you cannot withhold that. You have to give that directly because the GAA cannot amend that. So magkakaroon ng about 70 billion ang PhilHealth, no? So there
Ay,
or
corrective. Oo.
yeah, oh. So ang suggestion ko, uh, the president, because ang daming galit na tao but this can be diffused. The president can just say, I am sending a supplemental budget, a mandatory budget to Congress. So ang gagawin niya, ibalik niya yung computerization budget, tapos ibalik niya yung PhilHealth, bibigyan niya ng about 70 billion, at saka kunin niya yon from the bloated budget of DPWH. That will diffuse the situation, the current crisis, no?
So
So,
the
pwede
president can,
i-solve ng presidente, but pag ginawa niya ito through the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court cannot add yun ang problema. It can only strike it down
right, right. Yun nga eh. And I'm sure some of the skillful people were aware of the limitations of also the intervention. But nevertheless, the political damage is huge. So what you're saying is that it's really incumbent upon the president to come in, di ba? And take up the cudgels and correct it. Kasi ang backlash kay BBM eh. All of this is reflecting badly on BBM, di ba? Justice, I mean, the
Yeah,
conversation has really changed. The momentum has really changed.
yes, I think he doesn't need this kind of problem. I mean, it's so easy to correct, and it's the right thing to do, the constitutional thing to do. He should just do it. Madali lang talaga. He just announces today, this will be fused. I will ask Congress to amend the GAA. Ginawa natin yan when during the COVID, they passed another law to amend
Right,
the General
exactly.
Appropriations Act. Rini-align nila, linipat nila yung some of the budget, no? So pwedeng gawin yan.
Pwedeng gawin yan assuming the president recognizes how big of a political crisis is
Yeah,
this.
he doesn't need this crisis kasi this one is really going to bring his ratings down.
Yeah, I mean, kasi the thing is, matagal mo na wino-warn yan. Justice Carpio, you were among the first people who said, don't mess up with this, yung PhilHealth fund
Yeah,
transfers lang last year. You have been warning this, and yet, mukhang may mga makulit talaga siya. Do you think heads should roll? I mean, some people say that the Zaldico removal was kind of
yeah,
one way
yeah,
of correcting it. Oo.
yeah. It was no, acknowledgement that something terribly wrong happened, but he was removed, but the budget is still there, and the problem is the budget, and it's easy to correct it, and it's an election year. There could be a backlash, no? I don't
Oh,
know if
absolutely.
in their calculation, basta may ayuda, may bibigay silang pera, iboboto sila. That could be their calculation, no?
Eh, yun nga eh. But they're up against Duterte, so we're looking for any loophole, right? To
Yeah,
really bring down this administration. And the thing is, it's possible that some people will still get the ayuda and enjoy it, but at the same time, the bad taste will be there, the bitter taste will be there, and the Dutertes will also juice this out. Now, going back to this again, Justice Carpio. So, um, is this the worst ever budget you've seen? Um, I mean,
in
you've been on
terms of the
this for a
budget,
long time.
yes. In terms of the budget, because this is bigger than the PDAF, that the Supreme Court at that time struck down, no? During the time of President Aquino, the second, the third. So, uh, and it happens at a time uh, when the feeling is that what's happening to our country, no? There's this feeling. I've never uh, felt this kind of sentiment for a long time now. People are so angry now with what's happening in our government. So, uh,
Ito yung RevGov na sinasabi mo, Justice, di ba? Na the
yeah,
sentiment is
there are
going
people saying RevGov na ito. But we've heard this before, but this one, it's really getting louder, no?
So the momentum against the Dutertes kind of was uh, dipped, uh, attenuated. At the same time, also the momentum of in terms of people's belief in the democratic institution is also completely moving in the opposite direction. No, so you can have even more problematic elements taking advantage of this. Is this a case, Justice, of maraming budget na punta sa flood control? Is this? Ang
Yeah,
gusto ko makita yung flood control budget eh. Doon
yeah,
ako
that was
interesado.
aggravated with what happened in Bicol. It received so much budget for flood control, and it suffered the worst flooding in its history, no, in recent memory. So, I think the president uh, should just cut clean. Just ask Congress, okay, amend the General Appropriations Act, do it correctly, and that will quiet down everybody, and that will send a message that the president listens. No, but it looks like he's digging in. He said, "Don't worry about PhilHealth. I will even add to the benefits of PhilHealth." But we've all looked at the finances of PhilHealth, and their latest uh, financial report, the first quarter of 2024 says negative. The equity is negative 600 billion. So how can you say you can increase the benefits when you're not given it, you're giving it a zero budget? I mean, you cannot give a benefit without a budget.
Should he consider also changing the Speaker of the House? I know, of course, that could be a politically explosive move, but kasi ang sense ko dito, Justice, maybe BBM is scared of admitting a mistake because if he does a major corrective move, that means may kababalakan na nangyari. Then logically, there should be some changes also in the legislative leadership. So de facto, it's gonna affect also his cousin, right? I mean, like, you can see how this can spiral, di ba? Na parang,
Well, I think it can still be corrected without chopping off heads, no? Because the people will, if the people see that the budget has been corrected, I think this will die down. But if the budget is not corrected, this will continue and get worse.
get worse. Yeah, yeah. So maybe let's go Saudi style, hindi chop the head. Di ba sa Saudi, pag nakaw ka, mauna mo yung fingers mo at kamay mo. Maybe, like maybe chop some hands, like, remove some people from some of the, positions and all. I'm just saying, kasi feeling ko, people are
Well,
gonna
they
adopt it.
actually did it with Zaldico, but Zaldico, that will not change the budget. You have to correct it by changing the budget.
And maybe some sacrificial lamb also here and there based on rule of politics. Medyo mga basic Machiavellian advice lang yun. Because, di ba, yun ang naging problema na Aquino di ba? Yung when na-struck down yung disbursement acceleration program, people were saying not only he should accept that, which he didn't, kind of, di ba? Nag-press con pa siya and inaway-away pa kayo ni late Aquino noon. And I was very disappointed with that. I remember interviews with the Western media and I was saying, no, this is weird. But people were also asking for, DBM leadership to be changed, among other things. No, so I think politically speaking, there has to be some also changes there. Maybe not the Speaker of the House, but some of the committees and all. So, kasi political din to hindi lang ito in terms of constitutionality and legality, because how the other side is making the most out of it. Now, Justice, while we're hoping for BBM to wake up, have a good rest tonight, so that hopefully by Monday can start fresh and ethical and do the right thing. And of course, for your former colleagues in the Supreme Court, na makakape sila and finally they make the right decision after the Chinese New Year, kung Fa Choi. Let's talk about this ICC thing. So ICC, so ito na, Justice, mukhang a certain distinction has been denied the Dutertes. If ever, they won't no longer become the first Asians to face warrant of arrest. I think people forget Afghanistan is part of Asia. So,
Nauna.
Taliban's supreme leader, nauna pa siya. Nauna siya na warrant of arrest. So, sorry sa mga Dutertes, you're gonna lose as a distinction. So, yung sinasabi ni Duterte na itong ICC ay bias, white men going after, blah, 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 Africans and all. Hindi na totoo because you have Karim Khan, who's obviously from a South Asian background, going after Afghans. So, sorry na lang if ever... were you surprised by that ICC warrant of arrest against the Afghan leaders for, of course, atrocities against the women of Afghanistan? Grabe yung apartheid, gender apartheid.
Well, I think they were trying to address that charge against them that they were focusing on black government leaders, black military leaders, and finally they issued that warrant of arrest against Putin. Remember that
Although
started to
Putin is
spread.
not Asian-ish, Eurasian, and then Israel is kind of,
And
we
then
don't know, it's Western. But
Afghanistan,
Afghanistan
malapit na
is
sa
really
atin.
Asian.
Yeah, now it's in Afghanistan, and Afghanistan is in the Middle East. Palapit na sa
Central
atin.
Asia, yeah, Central Asia, Middle. Exactly. Ito talagang
Central Asia.
I think next could be Myanmar, di ba? Yung General
Myanmar is a
Myanmar is the
possibility.
next. And
The
then,
two next candidates will come from the Philippines or Myanmar.
parang ang ICC, pag ganyan siya, no? Spreading from Europe, but Moscow, then, then Middle East, then ngayon Afghanistan. So baka may logic pala yun. It's following a certain logic, no? I mean, it looks to me like that, right? Because Myanmar
Yeah.
is very much next, and then I mean, you could say also the Afghan leadership, Taliban is a kind of a low-hanging fruit. I don't know in which cave these people are. Good luck finding them, right? But at least it's a statement by ICC, diba? And then of course things would get more contentious once it reaches Southeast Asia. So you see this as a good news, or you see this as them just ticking the box? Lagay lang na tayo ng ibang tao para lang hindi na masabi na
Well,
mga ano lang.
well, I think because it's a rather new institution, and they're being pressured also by the U.S. So they're fighting several fronts, and they're fighting states. Like, how do you arrest Putin? I mean, it's the guy has the button on their nuclear weapons.
Most numbers.
So,
Yeah.
so
Two nuclear
uh,
powers.
it's not
There's
easy
another.
to do this. I mean, you have to remember the guy who holds the largest nuclear arsenal in the world is the subject of their warrant of arrest, and that is tough. That is rather brave, and now they're facing the wrath of Donald Trump, that he is going to uh, pass a law prohibiting the prosecutors and anyone connected with the ICC uh, from entering into any transaction or relationship with the U.S. or the allies of the U.S. So it's
Grabe, no? Even the family members, no, could be affected, no?
yes.
Grabe na.
So yeah,
Yeah.
they are embattled right now, but my sympathies are with them because they have to do this kind of work because it's needed. No?
It is needed. What is your read so far? Because we're towards the end of our discussion, Justice Carpio. I want to go to the West Philippines, and I have a couple of important things to discuss with you on this. So here we are. Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Hindi na siya officially. What is your read of Donald Trump's early days, appointments, etc.? Because one of the things we noticed with Donald Trump, obviously, on one hand, he says he's a man of peace. He wants to end wars. And in fairness to the guy, if you look at a lot of his appointees, right, whether it's in Pentagon, whether it's the State Department, they seem to be very parang non-confrontational guys. So Demino, for instance, in the Pentagon, the new Middle East chief guy says, we have to cut a deal with Iran. Let's not go to war. That's not an important region to us. Trump himself said he's open to cutting a deal. He called on Putin to end this ridiculous war. So he's trying to help Ukraine to come from a position of strength. So, and then the new guy who's taking over the Southeast Asia, the Pentagon, who also wrote a piece I can forward later on to people, also saying that, and this is crazy, Justice Carpio, actually, finoword sa akin, natag ako ng former members of Biden's National Security Council, right? They tagged me kanina on Twitter, this crazy article. May term yung new Southeast Asia Deputy Assistant Secretary ng Pentagon. Ang article niya last year, in-argue niya, he's arguing in favor of a cooperation spiral with China. At sabi niya, kasama dyan sa cooperation spiral would be US will withdraw its weapon systems and maybe even EDCA bases in the Philippines for every reciprocation by China, meaning China will also withdraw its warships from the Philippines exclusive economic zone. Nagpanic on both sides because I also saw National Review also writing something about this na Trump is bringing a lot of these guys who are kind of a Koch brothers, think tank guys na libertarian na essentially isolationist. Isolationist. Let's not get into war with Iran, with Russia, with China, never mind, whatever. Although, and then at the same time, you have Marco Rubio making the Philippines the number three in the countries that he called. So you could see the priorities. Pete Hegseth, the controversial nominee who just got confirmed last night, all of them, and Mike Waltz, who just met Gilbert Chodoro in Washington, D.C., all of them naman saying is that China is important and they'll help the Philippines. What is your read of Trump? Sabog? I mean, is this going all in all directions or medyo confusing, di ba? I mean, you can read this in different.
Yeah, the way I look at it, Trump is very incoherent, inconsistent, contradictory. Why? He said he's a man of peace. He will stop wars, but it looks like he's stopping wars of other countries, but he will have his own because he's threatening to seize Panama and the Greenland. I mean,
There
and
will
he
be no
doesn't rule
war,
out wars.
Justice. There will be no
He
war.
does.
Wala silang laban. Kawawa itong mga bansang to. Greenland, Panama.
He's not ruling out the use of force. He said, we will not use force against Canada to make it the 51st state, but we're not ruling out force to get Panama Canal and to get Greenland. I mean, that's exactly the Putin theory. He's like Xi Jinping, he's like Putin. I mean, that's contradictory. How can you be a man of peace? For that, I don't think he will get the Nobel Prize for peace. He wants to get the Nobel Prize for peace. He'll never get the Nobel Peace Prize for that statement, for that assertion.
Actually, na-disqualify siya. So
He
maybe
disqualified himself.
he will make the
And
peace deal with Iran and Russia and then he'll invade Greenland. And then kukuhan niya yung... Tapos Denmark pa
so
yung kaaway, di ba? Which is
and
katabi ng
and
Norway,
and
which gives...
and
Yeah, yeah.
what you said, that we are just a pawn here, that they will withdraw their EDCA bases, they will withdraw the Typhoon missiles in exchange for China. I mean, we're just a pawn here in the war, in this in their battle for supremacy. I mean, we don't have a say. That's what they're saying. I mean, what will happen now to the mutual defense treaties of the US with other countries? They will say, "Oh, we might be next." Japan might think, "Oh, they might withdraw uh, from uh, from Japan, and Japan has no nuclear weapon to defend itself." So people will start thinking like North Korea. We have to,
Build
for
our nuclear... Yep. Although
survival,
Japan is
we
a
have to have
threshold
a
state.
nuclear arms. Everybody will go nuclear.
I'm sure the South Koreans won't have a problem at the direction they're going. No, I mean, so this is the tweet, no, by Rosh Doshi, who was the head of the China team at the National Security Council of Biden. So he tagged me kanina, ito yung issue, no, uh, quoting Andrew Byers. So this is the new guy who's gonna lead the Southeast Asia team at the Pentagon. Ito yung sinabi ni Justice, the US might begin a cooperation spiral with China by proposing to remove U.S. military forces or weapon systems from the Philippines in exchange for the Chinese Coast Guard executing fewer patrols in the South China Sea. And
Fewer
it goes on.
patrol, but fewer is the 1,000. They can ramp it up to 1,000 now, and then fewer can be 900. So, uh, well, that's terrible.
This is just kanina lang because I missed this one. I was looking at Dimino and a couple of people overseeing Middle East. Because my point is that you have the rise of so-called prioritizers. No, this is led by Elbridge Colby, someone who we had also on his podcast, whose argument is that the U.S. cannot afford fighting multiple wars and multiple powers. So you cannot fight Iran, Russia, China sabay-sabay, right? Oh, and add pa North Korea. So just focus ka lang dun sa pinaka-important in China. So I was seeing everything as part of that. And then suddenly I saw this one. Tinatag ako ng Biden people, National Security Council. Bay, tignan mo nga to. Ano to? Cooperation spiral. So, tapos point niya, pag China hindi sumunod, ibalik na naman namin ulit yung weapons sa system sa Philippines. Ano ba tingin niya sa Philippines? Open highway? Ay, sorry. Hindi pala nakinig ang China. Ibalik naman yung Typhoon system. Hindi na gets by that time, Duterte took over na eh. I mean, so, this is quite a dangerous thinking. So I hope this guy, whoever he is, I mean, he's already now in charge, number one na siya in terms of Southeast Asia. So I hope these people are revisiting some of these views because I just don't see how this is going. But nevertheless, it helps us if Trump avoids war with Russia and Iran, right? Because if he gets into war with those powers, then wala talagang masabi ang US in our part of the world.
Yeah, the I think whenever they talk of withdrawing forces, they have to be very careful because that changes the calculation of the countries like Japan, like South Korea, and the Philippines. I mean, if at any time at the drop of a hat they will say we will leave, and what is our guarantee? It's just like you remember the Budapest Memorandum. They told the UK,
With
the
Ukraine,
US,
right? Give up your
and
nuclear
Russia
weapons. Yeah.
guarantee the territorial integrity of Ukraine if they gave up the nuclear weapons, and that's what Ukraine did. And the first to invade Ukraine was Russia. I mean, uh, uh, and I think that taught Ukraine a lesson. Huh? That's why they're so fearful that Russia will, if you give Russia an inch, they will take a mile. So
Right.
yeah, and that should be a lesson for us also, that we really, at the end of the day, we have to improve our own internal defense, external defenses, because at the end of the day, things like this could happen.
And yung budget din ng, 'di ba, yung modernization 50 billion, 30 billion lang binigay, 'di ba, dun sa budget, parang ang laki din ng kaltas, no?
Yeah, of the 50 proposed by BBM himself, they deleted
Okay, 30.
15 billion to
Yeah.
35 na lang. And that's the West Philippine Sea to modernize the AFP. That's priority. That's national defense. That's national security. So linigay nila sa flood control sa DPWH.
Dapat Department of Flood
Priority is
Control na
flood
lang.
control na hindi mo naman nakikita, and everybody knows what happens there.
Parang lalo tayong na-depress. But just to make it more depressing, Marco Rubio also called for a pause in all foreign aid, not forever, but for 90 days to review kung ito ay mga aligned with US foreign policy. So that means mga US aid sa Pilipinas, sa mga everything will be on pause right now. Massive daw ang effect nito in a sense that, of course, first of all, it makes US lag behind China. It gives China a point to come in. A lot of projects are completely disrupted and up in the air right now. The worry is also this will be kind of a loyalty check, because the Trump administration is really doing a loyalty check, to make sure that any project, any appointments is completely aligned with Trump's version of what he wants for America or his administration. How dangerous it is for the US to also do this aid pause, just as everyone is doubting America's commitment to the rules-based international order.
Yeah, this will have an effect. I mean, on the part of national security analysts all over the world. I mean, uh, to pause your support is a big is a big problem for these countries. What if this becomes permanent? So that's why I said we have to prepare for the day when the U.S. might become an isolationist country, because it has happened twice in history. So let us stop
Over
reducing the budget of our AFP modernization. And, they decided to cut it by 15 billion, and suddenly here, US aid is paused. I mean, if it becomes permanent, what happens to us? We have to rely on our own external self-defense forces. At the end of the day, that's our only guarantee.
And the DOJ discuss, of course, we'll discuss this more on Wednesday. When God willing, we'll meet in person, Justice, for our OTAC forum. DOJ is talking about a second arbitration case against China. What is your read on that? Is this something closer to what you have been advocating, or is this just another
Yes.
statement?
Well, I've been advocating for more arbitration cases to be filed, but I don't know if they are serious with this one, or it's just, they've been saying, the DOJ has been saying before that they are about to file, and we're about to end the first half of the term of BBM. So I think uh, we should pursue this if they have been thinking about this, but I don't see any preparation so far.
Last point, Justice, kasi mukhang galit na rin. Lahat tayo galit na. So, in a week or so, there'll be another rally at EDSA. This time naman, hindi yung mga peace rally. Ito yung mga galit rally. Mga galit sa corruption at kababalaghan. What is your advice, Justice, for the genuine opposition to come together? Because I think nagkaroon ng de facto, hindi naman division, but in a sense that on one hand, there are people like you, Chela, among others, who have rightly focused on this really controversial budget. And then at the same time, there are people like Senator Trillanes, Senator De Lima, among others, who have really been on the front line of exposing the Dutertes and making sure tuloy-tuloy na itong impeachment na to. How do you make sure na ma-harmonize natin lahat ng genuine opposition para the message is on cue and the result is for the best of the country? Kasi we have to make sure na hindi tayo maging tuta ng any wrong side, diba? You have to make sure that maging autonomous force ang opposition. What are the efforts we should do? What should be the messaging discipline? And what do you think are the gaps that we have to fill in the coming weeks? Attend ba kayo, Justice, dun sa 31 ba yung rally, or 30? Yeah.
Well, we already came out with our messaging, and it's it covers both uh, uh, our criticism, our demands on the budget of for 2025, and also for accountability against the BBM and the Dutertes. We're asking also to uh, to hold the Dutertes accountable. In fact, the specific demand that we're making is because remember in the Quadcom hearing, the money, that 125 billion, landed in the possession of the two military aides. But they stopped questioning the military aides. I mean, the last nail in the coffin is to ask the military aide, what did you do with the money, the cash that was given to you? They did not ask the most important question. And they said, oh, we will allow the DND, the military, to investigate this too. But we have not heard anything from them. So we are demanding that Secretary Gibo make public the results of the investigation. We want to know what these two military guys did with the money. Did they give the money to Sara, to Piatos, or did they are still in possession of the money? I mean, there are only three possibilities. Because if we know what happened to the money, then case is closed. I mean, the cases can be filed already. I don't know why the most important question was not asked by the Quadcom. I really cannot fathom this. So we have included that in our demand. So we're not focusing only on the budget, but both sides. I mean, all we're demanding prosecution even of Duterte for the human rights violation. It covers everything, uh, but for us, because of time constraint, we really need the budget to be amended. That's why
Yun nga,
that
days
has
away.
become the number one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justice, for that. You're optimistic naman na at the end of the day, the good forces will come on top. Kasi parang ping-pong ang nangyari. Perde gana yata sabi ni Ronald, who has the most mistake ang laban dito? Ako naman sabi ko, hindi, piggy bank. Sino mas magaling mag-piggy bank sa mga totoong opposition? Kasi opposition ang magaling eh. Magaling mag-criticize kay Digong, magaling mag-criticize kay BBM. So nagpi-piggy bank lang sila each side. What is your final message on this note before we wrap this up, Justice?
Well, I hope the president listens to us that it's easy to diffuse this crisis by just amending the General Appropriations Act. It's as simple as that. And to correct the mistakes in the grave errors in the budget, I mean, it can be solved. And uh, then this will quiet down.
But what about parang wala kang advice sa mga Duterte's Justice? Wala ka bang advice? Like, how can they escape accountability? Is there a way
well,
for them to get over
well,
Piatos or ano?
they have already mapped out their escape route a long time ago.
Sila wala na talaga. Kaya naman, bakit si BBM lang may advice na umayos? Yung iba parang hindi mo na, parang wala na, beyond redemption now. So on that note of beyond redemption and redemption, thank you so much, Justice. I know this was a little bit later than usual. Thank you, Justice, for your service to the country. Thank you, Justice, for giving us your time for our humble little platform here. Mahal na mahal ka ng tao. Kasi kanina nag-post ako, do you have any questions for Justice Carpio? So, there were a couple of questions coming in. So we really love to have you with us at least once a week kasi your wisdom is very important. As I said, defected na ako. Wala na ako sa team nila Ronald. Wala na. Ano na ako? BBM na ako. BBM. Patalsikin. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much, Justice. God
Okay,
bless.
thank
And
you, Richard.
listen po. God bless. Have a lovely
Yeah.
weekend.